Julius Caesar. You know the name. It echoes through history, right? We think of him as this brilliant general, a master politician. But today, let's look at him as something else entirely, the chief architect of what would become the Roman Empire.
Okay, so let's just dive right into the central mystery here. At the absolute peak of his power, Caesar gets cut down by his own colleagues. So what gives? To figure out why, you really have to understand what he was trying to build and, just as importantly, what he was trying to tear down. That question, right there, is the key to his whole story. To really get to the heart of what Caesar was all about, we have to rewind and look at the world he was born into. Because the Roman Republic, for all its glory, was in a deep, deep crisis. I mean, it was a system designed for a city, not a global power, and it was pretty much coming apart at the seams.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? The Senate. For centuries, this was the beating heart of Roman politics, but by Caesar's time, it was failing. It had gotten slow, corrupt, and was completely, totally incapable of managing the massive territories Rome now controlled.
I mean, just think about it for a second. The political machine that worked just fine for a small city on the Tiber River was now supposed to govern millions of people, from Spain all the way to Syria. It's kind of like trying to run a massive global corporation using the rules of a neighborhood lemonade stand. It just wasn't going to work. And the result? Decades of chaos and civil war.
And this is exactly where Caesar steps onto the stage. He wasn't just another general trying to grab more power inside the same old system. No, he saw that the system itself was the problem, and he had a radical, almost unthinkable vision for a new way to run Rome. You can really see how different his thinking was when you look at what he said about the dictator Sulla. Now, this wasn't just him being arrogant. See, Sulla had tried to fix Rome by propping up the old, corrupt Senate. Caesar knew that was a dead end. He didn't want to repair the broken system. He wanted to tear it down and replace it completely.
So what was his goal? It's what historians call a new order. And this wasn't just a power grab. Not really. It was a vision for a government that could actually govern, a centralized authority that could finally bring some stability and efficiently manage a world empire.
And he didn't just talk about it. Oh no. The second he had the power, Caesar started this absolutely breathtaking series of reforms. We're talking a complete redesign of the Roman state, from the top all the way to the bottom. You can see the very core of his political changes right here. Control over money, the final word in legal cases, the power to appoint all the key officials. He just systematically pulled all of that power away from the old institutions like the Senate and gave it directly to himself. This was a fundamental rewiring of how Rome worked. He also started acting like a modern central banker, unifying the currency, even fixing the exchange rate between gold and silver. But maybe his most radical move was this one. He ordered that the taxpayer lists be posted in public. In an age of rampant backroom corruption, this was a revolutionary shot of pure transparency. Now, these political and economic reforms were huge, don't get me wrong, but you could argue that Caesar's most groundbreaking idea had to do with what happened after the war was over, specifically how he dealt with the aftermath of his brutal conquest of Gaul. He developed what some historians call a loser assimilation strategy, and it is absolutely fascinating. Instead of just crushing the defeated Gauls and taking all their stuff, he co-opted them. He kept their local leaders in place, and then, get this, he brought them into the Roman system. He gave them citizenship, rights, even seats in the actual Roman Senate. He was turning yesterday's enemies into tomorrow's Romans.
So how much did this brand new province have to pay for this privilege? 40 million sesterces a year. Okay, so that sounds like a ton of money, right? But to put that in perspective, a single sestertius was about a day's wage for a regular laborer. So this was the entire direct tax bill for a territory the size of modern-day France.
And here's the incredible part. That 40 million sestertii, that was a deliberately light burden. You see, previous Roman conquests were usually followed by these crushing taxes that just led to constant rebellion. Caesar's goal was totally different. He wanted long-term stability. He wanted economic integration. He understood you get a lot more loyalty with prosperity than you ever do with plunder. So you put all these pieces together, the central power, the economic stability, and this new way of integrating the provinces, and what you have is a coherent plan. It was, for all intents and purposes, the blueprint for the Roman Empire that would go on to dominate the world for centuries. In his assassination in 44 BCE, it didn't actually stop his project.
Sure, it plunged Rome right back into a terrible civil war, but when the dust finally settled, his chosen heir, Octavian, was the one left standing. And what does Octavian, the man we now call Augustus, do? He takes Caesar's blueprint and makes it the permanent system of government.
So, in the end, his assassins killed the man, but they couldn't kill his idea. The old republic was just too broken to fix, and Caesar's new order was just too effective to ignore. It became the very foundation for the Pax Romana, those 2 incredible centuries of peace and prosperity.
So what is his lasting impact on world history? Honestly, it's almost impossible to overstate.
Here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. A real, tangible result of his vision. When Caesar built roads in Gaul, he didn't just connect them to his new Roman forts. He built them to link up the existing Gallic tribal centers. And as a result, those ancient centers, places you've heard of like Paris, Lyon, and Marseille, they grew into the major cities of modern France. He didn't erase their culture, he integrated it.
Ultimately, Caesar's life represents the pivotal moment in Rome's history. He was the one who managed the chaotic, violent, and probably necessary transition from a dysfunctional city-state republic into a functional world empire that could actually govern a vast and diverse population.
Which brings us to our final, pretty provocative question, one that historians still debate. By conquering Gaul and, more importantly, by integrating it into the Greco-Roman world, did Caesar basically lay the political and cultural foundations of what would become Western Europe? It's a powerful thought to end on, and a testament to the absolutely mind-boggling scale of one man's impact on history.